Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Get away from her, you...
Well, hello and welcome back. It's not Monday, it's Tuesday. I didn't do any recording yesterday on account of it was a holiday and I took the day off. And also there was no mail yesterday. Mail has come today and it's bringing this week's subject. And that is, it's something new. It's a brand new kit. I got this from Steve, a Cult TV man. He saw it coming down the pipe and he said, "Oh, I bet you Lou would want one of those." And right he was. This is from a company I have never heard of before. This is the 1/12 scale power loader kit from Aliens. This is from a company named the Good Smile Company. Now you got to trust a company that comes with a name like that. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I opened up the box just to take a look at it. It includes a 1/12 Ripley that goes in it that can function as a completely separate kit. A posable action figure, if you will. So let's not waste any time. Let's play our favorite game, Meet the Parts. And today on Meet the Parts, we've got a box full. Again, this is the artwork from the cover. I'll leave that up there. But we've got tubing. We've got sprues, many sprues, black sprues. We've got orange sprues. We've got some gray sprues in here for Ripley. Looking at the scale, this is her face, and we've got the wonderful 80s/90s hairdo. Again, more black and more gold equipment sprues going on. This is going to be, it's been touted to be posable. We're going to see if it's also lightable, because I'm seeing that dome. I'm seeing this beacon at top being very clear, and I'm wondering if it's something we could stick a light in. But we are going to see, we've got different lengths of hoses we need to cut into different lengths. Ooh, it means learning the metric system, because we've got some 250 millimeter or 25 centimeters. See, I'm already making great advancements. But this is what we're going to be left with when we're all done. We've got some decals to go on. It's going to be fun. We're going to be able to do some weathering, some rust and stuff. That could be fun. Look at all the parts. Look at all the parts. There's a blue million of them. So we're going to take this step by step. We're going to try not to get too ahead of ourselves. We're going to take our time. We're going to do a slow and steady job. It looks like minimal painting. Some chrome pistons and some weathering on the yellow parts. But it looks like, by and large, it's outside of Ripley. It's pretty much the color it needs to be. So I'm not going to try to prime anything. I think that might end up doing us more harm than good. Looking at the box, we've got metal, we've got some silver that needs to be painted. It looks like the majority of anything that needs to be painted is going to be Ripley's figure. So we're going to open up some boxes and see what we've got. Alrighty, welcome back to Meet the Parts Part 2. The saga continues. We have trees that go from A to Z, quite literally. There is an A tree and a Z tree. Now, some of these are duplicates, as it would make sense. Like, you've got two of these gripper arms, so I'm assuming they use the same parts, and that's what we're finding here. There are two of the same. What's striking me as interesting is that the trees themselves are so small. This is D. This is the D tree, and it's about a quarter of the size. You'd figure if the box was that big, that the whole size of the tree would have been that big. But that's why we have so many different ones, is because they are so small. And I'm wondering if that is something that has to do with the manufacturer being a small brand manufacturer, or a new company, that they don't have access to the big the big sized injection molds, that sort of thing. But it's interesting. It is going to make things a little bit neater, trying to keep the parts off of the. Well, you don't have these big trees hanging out with just one part left on it. Looks like these are going to empty out pretty quickly. These are the loader parts. These are the parts that make up Ripley, and then we have the tubing. We've got a lot of black tubing, one piece of red, one piece of blue, and then what looks like, are these metal? Yes, some metal, whether those are axles or rods or something. I bet you they have something to do with the, I don't think they're pistons. They don't have ends on them, but they might be these guys that go between the grippers. Who knows? We'll find that out once we start getting into the instructions. I'm going to pull out the instructions. I think I might deviate on only one area, and that would be to probably, I think I want to go ahead and build Ripley first. We'll see where that comes in the procedure here. It doesn't seem to be dependent on any particular order yeah, here we go. Ripley is okay, you build all of that, and then yeah, Ripley's separate, so I think I might go ahead and build her first, get her out of the way, and then any painting that needs to get done on her can be drying while I am working on these other things. Now the hoses, I think, are going to be the big issue, because here's where it says you have to, the length that certain of these hoses have to be cut to. So, and then here's the map of how they get plugged into the backpack, and then how they go out to all of the various places. So that's going to be fun. Okay, here is that pin that I was talking about. Yeah, I tell you what, now have a revision here. Let's just follow the instructions and follow them and see where they go. Alright, one of the big challenges of this kit so far is determining which parts are going to be moving and which parts aren't, because you don't want to glue down a part that needs to be moving. I've got the two main gripper claw things put together, and they sit in a mechanism that allows them to open and close like that, and you don't want to glue any of that. But I'm finally to the point where the two sides of this case, or the two sides of this arm, I can glue down, because I want to encapsulate all of that mechanism and don't want it to move. So here's where I'm going to take a little bit of the MEK, and the nice thing about this is it's all capillary action. All I need is to run it down the crease of the seam here, separate it a tiny bit, put a little drop in there and squeeze it back together. I don't have to completely disassemble the whole thing. This is much like a Bandai kit in that it has been, at least so far, a snap together kit. So this is going to allow me to at least run some stuff down the seams. We'll see how the MEK reacts to this styrene. Yeah, give it a little extra squeeze after it's been glued up. Now that I know this part does get glued together, though, when I am putting the other hand together, I can go ahead and put the glue on it before I squeeze the two parts together. That will inform how everything else fits. So the nice thing about having these small sprues, though, is that as you empty them out there, you can quickly toss them. And so far so good. Like I said, this is a different company. I'm not used to their kits, so you gotta see how they do things. And of course this all fits in the center here, and then there is a a star wheel cog type of thing that is on the S sprue. And you fit that in there and kind of, oops, I need that, and then I need, which is the other one, I need Z1 and Z5. So having used Z1, Z5 is the next one. Okay, that goes in the sleeve here. This is one of those kits that's made to be multi posable and movable, much like any other Bandai kit that is a hybrid between being a model and an action figure. Okay, so we push that in, get that sprocket to line up is no easy task. Okay. Let's see. It doesn't work as well when only one side is being captured. So that's all I need to do is make sure that it's in the slot, and then I can put the other half over top of it. Yeah. Okay. So now let me try this on top of. Okay. Like I said, I don't want to get glue where the moving parts are, but some of this stuff is immobile. That did work pretty well. Yeah, see, now it'll slide back and forth. Alrighty, as we close down for the day, I think I can show you most of a completed arm. And that's a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you, this thing is going to be huge by the time we're done, though. Between that and the gripper and all of this spinning and closing and working at the elbow, at the elbow with the piston working, and then this going into the side of the body. That's going to be an impressive little display. I can't wait till we get to weather in this thing. It's going to be fun. And then this is the handle, and I'm looking at all these little nipples here where the hoses are definitely going to be going. That's going to be a fun thing to add on as well. So yeah, it's a good first day. I can't wait to get back to this tomorrow. We can spend the whole day on it. We've got one claw. We've got both of the claws done, and most of the right arm. So good. We'll continue on this tomorrow. Morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's Wednesday, hump day. And we're going to be running full steam on this power loader today. Now, I've already gone ahead and caught myself up with the other arm. This was what I got, the arm I'd gotten done yesterday. Lovely piston work and all of that, and everything's turning and spinning and looking lovely. We've got this side-to-side action on the wrist. We've got the spin. We've got the grip. We've got the elbow bend and all of that. And I've done the same on the other one just to catch everybody up. And because you didn't need to see me do that again. It's just the same thing on the other arm. So we've got those. We'll put those to the side. And we'll start working on the legs now, I believe. And so I pulled out the parts to do the feet. And then we're going to work our way up. And then it looks like we're saving Ellen for last almost. Yeah, it looks like she's being saved for last. So we'll go ahead and start working on the legs. Here we've got, and again, like I said yesterday, and I'll repeat to my dying day, it's tricky to know which parts you can go ahead and glue and which, because you want that stability at the core of it. You want the joints to be good and rigid, but there are some things that need to bend, rotate, spin, turn, do all of those things. So I kind of test fit everything first to see how it goes together, and then how does it relate to something else. Like these two parts here, there's no harm in going ahead and gluing those together because they don't, I mean, there's a bushing inside there, which means something is going to turn inside of it. But we don't need to, we do need to go ahead and make that as strong a thing as possible before we do that. So I'm just going ahead and things that I'm speeding up a little bit today because I've determined that the things they say do twice, instead of doing the whole thing once and then doing the whole thing again, I'm just getting out all the parts and doing them simultaneously so that I can have them ready to go. I'd like to take a minute here to point out a fit issue. The feet, of course, are they look to be the same. There's not a right foot and a left foot. They are the same part. And this little insole that goes in here, made up of this joint that will pivot this way on an ankle and also go this way. They did something here that was unnecessarily confusing, and I'll point it out. A lot of times when you have a particular a way round that two parts have to fit, if there is a pin and a slot, and there is a particular way that it has to fit together, they will make one pin socket smaller than the other so that you can't put it in the wrong way. It can only go in the right way. They did not do that with these parts. Not only are all of these pins the same size, but they're same size front and back. The illustration is not necessarily the clearest as to how it goes front and back, and because this is mostly a symmetrical part, you really have to pay close attention to how these parts are supposed to fit in here. So I am test fitting and going back and forth on this because, like I said, the grayscale illustrations on these parts aren't as clear as they could be. If, say, this pin was smaller on this side than that side, then you would know that's the way it has to go in because it wouldn't fit in the slot otherwise. But with all of the slots and all of the pins being the same size, as I said, it is unnecessarily confusing. Alrighty, we're coming down to the bottom of the, looks like the left leg, and I'm hit with a surprising example of cheapness. I can't think of any other term for it. They went to such pains to make all the rest of these pistons work like that, and the pistons on the arms. But when you come down to this one on the foot, which does turn, this piston right here does need to go in and out. If you glue it to the bottom position where that piston would land, you're essentially locking that foot in place. It's like I said, a surprising amount of cheapness considering all of the rest of the other pistons have been made to function. So I'm not going to glue the bottom of that, and it's just going to float like that, which isn't quite right. By all rights, that should glue in and compress and expand, but it don't. So we're going to have to see about that. And another thing is I'm noticing a lot of these black pieces are going to end up being painted silver, which causes me to wonder why they just didn't mold them in silver. Everything else is molded just fine. They could have done this entire Q sprue, which is all of the pistons and all of the hydraulics. They could have made this in silver, and it would have saved a whole lot of heartache and strife down the line. Things like here, now I understand there's black padding inside the seats, and they've done that into black. But I'm at a loss as to why they just didn't see all of the stuff that happens inside the arms or the gripper, everything that happens inside the hand. All of these parts need to be silver, and if you're going to make them movable, well, that paint's just going to rub right off. So this black handle I understand, but again, this piston could have been made silver and saved a lot of trouble, because the more you do the in and outs on it, the more it's going to rub the paint off. I think that's a swing and a miss on that. If they're playing up the idea that this is not just a model but a posable thing, then they should have gone that extra step to not make it more difficult than it needs to be. All of these rubbing surfaces will, the paint will rub off on those. Alrighty, we've got the legs and the arms done. All we need now is the torso, and then of course the lovely pilot. But this is getting to be a nice sizable kit. For those of you on the fence about this, a lot of times I am disappointed in the size of some of these Bandai kits, or Bandai-like kits. This is not a Bandai kit. This is good. This is Good Smile Company. And I just noticed something else that's going to be an issue, and that is the skin color. Since these joints here on the elbow and such are visible, that's going to be something else that needs to be painted. And unfortunately, they did not give a flesh-colored sprue. This is a gray colored sprue, so that's going to be unnecessarily complicated. I wish they had not done that. Anyway, but when you size everything up, this is going to be a nice sized kit. It might be worth going online and investigating to see whether there is an alien queen that I could print that might be scaled to this. That could make quite the nice diorama. Righty, we're down to the monumental stuff, except for building Ripley, and that is we've taken this center. Now I have not attached the cage. This is the bit that well, let's see, here's the cage that would go on the front of this, and then it snaps down in place over top of your operator. But it goes up like that. Now, the reason I have not done that is I have not given up on the idea of lighting this. So I want to be able to make sure I can get to that. So that's why I have not attached those parts permanently. But it is time. It is time to attach like the legs and the arms to the center here. So we are going to take the, we're on stage 46 right now. We're going to push this into there. We're going to push that into there. And look, all of a sudden we have two legs to stand on. And we can pose that a little bit. Make sure we've got enough oomph there. Okay, that's both of those in. Now there are two big antennas there, R14 and R15. Let me find those. The R's are, yeah, here we go, 14 and 15. And they will go on the backpack. They've got ball joints on one end. So let's spin this thing around. Oh yeah, they go right down here. There. And there. Now we are to put the arms in. Oh, okay, that makes sense. This is the piston for that. Okay, that makes sense. That goes like that, and then that drops over like that, and we are ready to install the arms. Okay. Arm goes in like that, piston goes to that joint. Yes, that makes all the sense in the world. Push that in. Didn't think that was going to be an easy fit. No, it's not. It's got one of those gaskety things inside, so that is not going to be a walk in the park to get that to fit. And here you go. This is all of the non-Ripley parts of the power loader. Like most Bandai kits of their ilk, this is not a Bandai kit. I cannot stress that strong enough, but it's the only frame of reference I have to give you. But outside of that, they go together very quickly, very easily. Particularly things you don't glue, because you are making it posable. The fun on this is going to be in the weathering and in the painting of it. So now that we've got this ready to set aside, outside of all the tubing is going to be its own tragedy, I have a feeling. But now we're going to knock together, well, that's not that's a rude term. We're going to put together Miss Ripley, the talented Miss Ripley. I've been waiting all day to say that. The talented Miss Ripley gets put together, and then we've got all of these tubes, and I still don't know what these metal pins are for. That's going to be fun to find out. But that's all the tubing, and that all has to be cut up and put in. I think a lot of that's going to wait till after the weathering is even done, because I'm going to have to get in and around those areas. But anybody who's done a Bandai figure, whether it's Star Wars or whatnot, knows how simple these are to go together. So I'm just going to put Miss Ripley together and see how she looks inside the power loader. And there you go. There's Miss Ripley. Now, you have to make a decision at some point. Are you going to have her in the power loader, or are you going to have it separate? Now, you can swap them out. It's designed for that. But be honest, once it's on the shelf, are you going to want to have them separate, or are you going to want to have them together? I'm going to want to have her in the suit. So there are a couple concessions. Now, they've got separate handles for the big joysticks here, or the, well, I guess they would be some sort of joystick. They are meant to be replaced, because there's no way that handle would fit up into her hand. It just doesn't, it's not designed that way. What it is designed to use one of these, and then you plug that into the wall or into the arm where the other joystick is. You would pull that out and put the other one in. You also have to pull the, well, first you have to make that go up, and you pull the seat belt off, which all has to be painted anyway to fit her in. You have to put this peg in the seat back, which also pegs into her back. That's what kind of holds her in place. And let me see, to do that, yeah, I think I need to move that up. I think I need to move that up to the top place. Does that work better? Yeah, I think that works better. And pull the little booty things off. Not the booty, the boots. Actually, you probably could get away with doing that without pulling those off. Just sliding your feet in like that. Oops. Your poor head doesn't. See, you sit there like that. Well, you know, the thing is, this is not an action figure. This is supposed to be a model. So, making it fit like that is not unimportant. There. And then she's into that. And you would pull this elbow back, pull this handle out. You would put, well, you wouldn't ping it across the table. That's the first thing you wouldn't do. But you would put this in her hand, and then back into the shaft of the arm like that, and then the same thing over here, and then fit her arm over top of it. Come on, bend that elbow back. Oh, her whole arm just came off. There you go. Okay, now we can put this back in here. Oh, the wonders of doing this on live camera. Okay, push that back into her. So there you go. So that's more of how it would be with the idea that you would then put the seat belt back over her, Again, if you're going to glue all these in place, then it would take care of itself a lot. So let's go ahead and put the straps back in. Okay, that's in. And then the cage goes back over top. And there you go. That's her in the actual power loader with all of the straps in place and the handles on the hands on the handles there. And then if you want to move this arm up, I think you would probably glue the hand to the handle and then move the arm and let everything else kind of follow along. Yeah. Gotta glue that hand down to the control. There we go. Push in at the elbow, or push in at the shoulder. There. Okay. Now, all that's remaining are the myriad of wires and tubes and hoses. This is something Evans makes for police cars. Now, the unfortunate thing is that this is red. And if I decide I want to go with this, then I need to decide also if I want to change the color, or do I want to go ahead and leave it red. See, it's if I put this orange over top of it, is that going to make it too red? Should I put orange lights in there instead? That's what it would look like. And I think I can make the executive decision that if I'm going to go through all this heartache, it's going to be bad enough making it fit without changing the color of it as well. So we're going to see, the problem is I need to shorten a lot of those wires. If I could shorten the wires down to this bundle, then maybe I can hide that whole bundle inside of this part and then just run one little wire out the back to make it work. So I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about if I'm going to shorten those wires and cut those anyway, then I may as well change them to amber, since I've got amber bulbs here. That's one thing. The next thing is seeing how much of this I need to take back apart. Obviously, I can take the arms and the legs off of the central torso to make it easier to paint and to weather. So I think that may be the way I go. And plus, obviously, I have to paint up Ripley, but that's all in the painting. I was expecting to spend some time on that. I still don't know what these metal shafts are for. I have not seen anything in the literature that would describe what those are for. They're not aerials. They are not... No, I don't think that they are. No, those aren't hollow. Those aren't meant to go. They aren't meant to extend those aerials. So you can see the lovely paint job they show you here as far as painting some of those parts silver. And I say once again, and I say to anybody who will listen, they certainly should have made those silver rather than black. The harness needs to be painted. I think I need to do some reference. I need to watch the relevant scenes of the movie and refresh myself with how those actually work. Well, I'm embarrassed to say this, and then you've probably been screaming at me all the whole video long, but I know where those metal rods go now, and if I could read Japanese, I probably would have understood it. They go in here all the way back to the very first thing that I did. The very first bloody thing that I did. Step number 4 is where they should have gone in. I took that as, from the illustration, I took that as how they were describing that these go back and forth. They were showed what looked like motion lines, and what they were are two little lines that meant, hey, on both sides of this, that's where these go. So my question at this point is, did I glue that together so well that I cannot pry this apart and put those metal rods in there? Or do I have to learn to live without them? Because they simply go right here on both sides, but they go through the whole stinking mechanism. So I have to take the whole mechanism out. My question is, can I pry those apart? Stay tuned and find out. Well, good news, everybody. Yes, I was able to slide those in. Now, I have to take these arms off anyway to weather them. And my biggest concern was dislodging that gear in the center because that was a bear to get in to begin with. But no, we're great. Everything is in place. The two metal posts on either side. The only thing I needed to do was to pry open one end so that I could slide the rods down where they went the whole way and into the bottom pocket. Push this back together, and huzzah! We are fully rotted, I guess it would be the correct term. So now we're going to look at disrupting this even more and trying to see if this is worth trying to fit that light in. To do that, I need to take pretty much just this part off of the back wall. Now there are pins here holding this whole piece in. I could take those pins out as well. That's the, again, I knew that was going to happen, so I purposefully did not put any glue on these pins. Alrighty, I'm starting to investigate the feasibility of lighting. Now that we're down to this, I've stripped everything down except for the actual parts involved. Got the pins out, like I said. This is how it works. Now, when I look at this, it is more than obvious that this would be just about the right size for a 9-volt battery to fit in. The only thing I'm having a problem with doing that is it would take every last breathing inch. And I've got a ton of these little 12-volt battery holders, and this thing is meant to work anywhere. It can work on 12 volts, so why not? Use a smaller battery and I'll have room for a switch. So basically, I'm going to cut a hole here. We're going to leave that hinged, and then what I'm going to do is maybe put the switch up in here so that I can just open it up, click the switch, push it back down, and then if I need to, I can yank the battery up out of here. See, now I can't help but think they had that something in mind, because that is suspiciously wide open in there. That is what that part looks like on the inside, and that is just wide open. So it's not going to be any problem at all to try to sink a battery down in there. There's only one pin pocket there to worry about. Okay, work is actually going pretty well on the beacon. Now I have swapped out the red LEDs on that circuit for some yellow LEDs, and that was probably the most nerve-wracking part, was resoldering that tiny wire. I didn't solder on the LEDs. I made a splice further down in the wire where it's actually thicker. But that's what it kind of looks like by the time you put the dome over it. You can see the I wish there were 4 of them, but there's only 3 in the circuit. So maybe I'll go side to side and then one in the front. But we need to solder or CA a spot down in here. Maybe push them all down and then CA that goop there. I was thinking I want to space them out by putting a thin piece of clear tubing in there, and then I can glue CA the bulbs to the wall there, and that'll space them out. That's what I did on the anti-pesto van for Wallace and Gromit, and it seemed to work out well. I just made a core that was clear. Come on. made a clear core, and glued the bulbs to 3 sides of it. That way, like I said, it spaced them out evenly. Okay, it's tiny work, and it's done. That is the 3 bulbs, and they're glued to 3 sides, roughly front, side, and side, nothing in the back. But you can see, if you squint, you can see that is making a chase circle, and it is the right height. That by the time I put that on here, I'm going to frost up or scuff up the inside of that, but that will do, pig, that will do. And now this is ready to go onto the front of this. I still need to join up the battery, but let me pull this battery out for the time being, the battery holder. Okay, pull that out, and it would sit something like that with, let's see, this on the front of it. Yeah, it would sit like that, and then that on top of it. So it looks something like that. Alrighty, for the last few moments, I have been working on the switch to run this whole Megillah, and I've come up with this. And I couldn't think of a way. I could open this up to make a flip switch on it. That's one way. But I was thinking, what would be the easiest thing to do? I put this momentary switch on it right here, so that when the head comes down and it's engaged, the light comes on. And once you latch everything in, it pulls it down tight enough. But that way, when I want to make it stop, I just disengage it a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. I went to my monthly modeling group meeting last night, and that's always a great time, even though I got stranded at the Chinese restaurant. And you know who did it. And I took the power loader just so everybody could get a gander at where I was so far, and we all agreed on the same thing. It looks like a toy. I mean, it's a great kit, but the articulation on it is a bit much, and it for the sake of it having that feature, it kind of comes off toy-like. So I think we all agreed that what we needed to do was find a good position that we like, a good pose, and then just lock it in that pose, and you know, glue all the joints and all that kind of stuff. That way we're not going to have that problem with the paint wearing off of the rubbing points and all that kind of stuff. I halfway agreed with that. I mostly agreed with that proposition. I agreed with that proposition from the waist down. And because the most egregious bit is, not to be rude, but it's in the pelvis there. It's in the groinal region. That those gaps from the fact that it's a posable action figure-ish type of thing is too much of a distraction. I still would like to make the arms at least the elbows and the shoulders. Well, I'm going to make the grip posable. There's no harm in that. But I decided I wanted to make maybe the arms and elbows posable, but everything else is going to be locked into a single pose. So I have posed out Ripley the way the way the bottom is going to go. Let's go ahead and take. I can go ahead and take this out. Actually, no. I want to do the hips too. What I'm going to do is put some glue in there while it's in this pose, and then pull her out of the chair. And that will, once that pose is locked in with glue, I can go and fill in the areas, the gap areas, with epoxy sculpt, and we can go on our merry way. And then I can glue the legs and the knees and the hips into position as well, and that'll give me a more stable grounding anyway. And then we can go in with the paint. I picked up some oil spills and some rust paints last night, and I picked up this heavy equipment highway yellow color that I'm going to be using to kind of paint over a lot of this stuff. So let's go ahead and do the little bit of locking down that we're going to do, and proceed from there. Alrighty, so I've got my coat of yellow on everything. This is the Mission Models heavy equipment yellow, which I thought was appropriate. And Mission Models paints I've not had that much experience with, so it's still in the experimental phase. I do know that they have a nice range of colors, but I also know that if you don't get your airbrush cleaned out right away, it will turn to gum. So I've done that. Also, I thinned it a bit and lowered the pressure on the air gun, or on the airbrush, to because I wanted it to come out very well, I wanted it to come out nicely. That's why you put anything in an airbrush. But I noticed that on a higher pressure it was coming out very wet and splashy, and I wanted it to be thin so that it wouldn't gum up the brush. So to do that, I also had to lower the pressure coming out so that it wouldn't, like I say, it wouldn't come out too thin and runny. So that's all drying. I'm not worried about anything that's going to be silver or black. I can paint that in by hand. Got the arms over here. Again, any of that silver stuff I'm going to paint by hand, so I'm not worried about that. While that is all drying, I can take my time and sculpt in the missing parts of Miss Ripley here. Now that that glue has dried, it's locked into that pose, and I can go ahead and get the epoxy sculpt out. Now that the top coat of the yellow, or the base coat of the yellow, has dried, I'm going in with a mixture of new construction yellow and just a drop or two of black, and I'm putting in some pre-shading, and then I will hit the high spots one last time with a coat of the straight yellow before I start to putting on. I think what I want to do is put a gloss coat over this so that I can put the washes on and the washes won't soak in, because these are awfully flat colors, and I'm afraid the any washes that I put over them are just going to soak straight in. So we'll do that. We'll put a gloss coat and then we'll start the washes. But I just want to hit some in the obvious spots with this brown or the darker yellow, and then I'll come back in and hit the highlights on top of that. Here is Ripley with the seams in her pants filled in. They're still a little noticeable, but there's so much you can do with epoxy sculpt on one go. I'm thinking I might have to let this cure up and then do another layer on top of it. I don't want to try to have it build up so much that it doesn't dry evenly. So that takes care of the knees and the hips there, or the upper thigh there, leaving the waist. That's a natural seam, and I did put some up under her chin to take care of that hole in her neck. Alrighty, this might be as much fun as I'm legally allowed to have, but I've just gone over all of the yellow parts again with just a highlighting coat of just the yellow, and I went even went in and spattered some of it on there, because I've seen heavy equipment that's repainted in the field sometimes after a repair, and it's not the neatest or cleanest job you've ever seen. So paint spatters are not unusual, as long as they look intentional, and as long as you fess up to them and you don't try to make it look like, oh, I didn't do that. If you make them look intentional, 9 times out of 10 they will look right. So all of this is going to dry. Then I'm going to put a gloss coat over it, so then I can put the washes in, and the washes will sink around to the proper areas. I said it earlier, I'm afraid because this paint is so flat when it goes on, that the washes would just stay there and suck into it and not run down into all of the creases like you're supposed to. Yeah, I'm working later tonight than I normally do, but I wanted to get this stage done so that it could be healing up all night. and that is to get the decals down. The gloss that I put on the body did wonderful things for making it easier to put the washes and the stains on tomorrow, but also it was the perfect substrate for the decals. So those are setting up, and they look like this. I chose the 04 number because that's the they have options for 02 and 04, and I believe 02 was what she used at the beginning when she was demonstrating her prowess, but 04 I believe was the one she used when she was fighting the actual queen. So that's going to set up all night, all of these caution stripes, which is good because that kind of stuff would be under the rust and the stains and all of that as well. So we're good on that. So that's going to heal up overnight. We'll come back, hit it in the morning. Hey everybody, it's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, and if I were a betting man, I would say this is not going to be the last day on this power loader build because I've got still quite some stuff to do. I'm working on the weathering right now, and I still have Ripley to finish painting. But and I ain't even started all that tubing that has to go on, and that's going to be a day in itself, I'm afraid. Now, right now I'm having the what I'm calling the Mr. Miyagi stage of weathering, and that is wash on, wash off, stain on, stain off, dirt on, dirt off type of things. And I've picked up a new batch of these Mecha Weathering Vallejo paints. This particular one is Oil Stains Gloss, and this one is Brown Engine Soot, and this one is Rust Texture. Now, I have not put the Rust Texture on yet because that's a matte, and I think I want to put that on the top of everything. Now, this one's Oiled Earth. This is my favorite one right now. Went back, checked the reference in the movie just to see what the level of abuse on this piece of equipment was, and it was extensive. It was beat to hell and back. So I'm not worried about making anything neat or clean on this. There's still quite a few things I need to do, but I've been pushing the stain, or pushing the soot into the corners here. Simply wax on, wax off, because I'm putting it on, letting it sit for a while, and then wiping it off and trying to achieve a certain level of grimy oiledness that I am looking for. I did notice something I thought was interesting but not surprising when I was looking at the box art versus what the actual kit was. You'll notice the box art up behind her head, it says Caterpillar. You're not going to find that anywhere on the actual kit, because I guarantee you they couldn't afford the license to put Caterpillar on this. That's just not something that you're going to find unless it's an authorized Caterpillar model kit. So because I was looking at the detail back in there, and I was going, well, what do I need to put in there? And I said, well, that Caterpillar ain't going to be there, and it wasn't. But I'm basically picking out the stuff that is going to be the furthest in, the stuff that's going to get cleaned off the least, and that's where the grime and the oil and the dirt and all of that kind of stuff, that's where that's going to accumulate. That's just nature. I see a lot of people doing rusting and weathering tutorials on YouTube and whatnot. Some of them are very, very good, and I highly recommend them. But some of them are good at technique, but they're not good at the zen of it, the philosophy of it. They weather things or rust areas that would not necessarily be exposed. It's true, rust can show up in a lot of places, but you can, to me, it's just something that it's one of my pet peeves. It's sort of like when I see people using clip art and the lighting and or the perspective is off from two different pieces of clip art. It offends my graphic artist sensibilities, and it also offends me when I see something that is weathered or rusted that wouldn't necessarily have ever been exposed to the weather that way. The rusting doesn't make a logical sense. The rust isn't where it should be, that type of thing. I've seen enough rusted out cars growing up in the Northeast to know where rust attacks And it ain't always where you see it on models. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, and the thing about this is it's kind of something, it's very fluid. When I'm doing this weathering, it's off and then on. Unless I want it to sit for a while and really soak in, I'm usually just dabbing off and then dabbing on again and then adding and subtracting until I get something that I think is going to serve my purpose. And then you can of course either take a wet brush or a towel or a Q-tip and hit the high spots and just buff the weathering, buff the oil off of that where it wouldn't, the high spots where it wouldn't collect. The thing is, this is like most heavy equipment, painted with a high gloss enamel paint. So it's the parts that are rounded like this, very rarely would you see weathering collect on that, unless it is the type of weathering where it has had the paint scraped off, which is another complete stage that I haven't even gotten to yet, where you take a little silver on a dry brush and you hit the high spots to knock the paint off. But there, that's the kind of stuff I'm going for that piece. And now we're going to walk around and do some of these other arms. Here is, for an example, here is one arm I did earlier. Here is another arm that I haven't done at all. You can see the difference. What I'm doing now is a little comparative weathering, because one of the trickiest parts about the whole weathering thing is to make sure that you are doing it evenly. Now, unless you are presupposing that a part has been replaced, like you might have a brand new panel on the Millennium Falcon, or you might have something on an X-Wing where, yeah, it's been through a couple of battles and they had to replace the laser cannon or something like that, in which case you would have a very distinct difference in the amount of scorches or weathering or anything like that. If you are building something like this where I've still got the arms and the legs disassembled from the main body, then I will want to make sure that it looks like it all belongs together. And if one side is weathered, let's say to a 9, you want to make sure that the other side or the other arm is weathered to a 9. You don't want to have a 3 on one arm and a 6 on the other, unless you are, like again, you are presupposing that the weathering on the 3 is because that whole arm had been replaced. So I'm just basically matching dirt for dirt here at this point to make sure that they look like they have always been on the same suit. Now, there's a school of thought that would say, okay, well, the inside arms would probably even be more weathered, because that's not something that if you're treating your equipment like a fire engine, say you know, sometimes they are, when you're on downtime, you're cleaning your equipment, and fire departments will clean their trucks between calls. And this may be something where you don't get into a corner you don't get into as well as you do on the outside. So the insides of the legs and the outside or the insides of the arms might not get the same loving cleaning as the outsides do. Or in the case of this power loader, it could be something as simple as, well, if it's outside in the elements, the outer side is going to get rained on more than the inner side, and maybe that's what keeps it dirtier on the inner arm, is because it's not, like I say, it's not getting the loving treatment of the outside. I know a lot of people whose cars are very clean on the outside, but the inside isn't very clean. Well, you know, you don't always lift the hood to wash it when you're washing the rest of the car, so it's going to get dirtier in some spots. So, playing with the arms there, I just want to make sure that there are no big spots of like very clean parts. Everything should have a like a like amount of dirt on it. And again, these pistons here would be the first things to be wiped. They can be very easily wiped down. So these big broad areas, the schmutz would not collect in them like it would in the all of these little creases and stuff. Okay, so I'm happy with those arms. I think we'll move those to the side now and pull in the legs. Now the legs are going to have maybe, especially down at the ankles, they're going to collect a lot of dirt and stuff just from all of the dirt and everything running down the rest of the machine. And it's going to run down and pool on the feet. Plus the feet, obviously, where it's going to be stepping in the most dirt. So if you're going to have any mud buildup or anything caked on it, it's going to happen on the feet. The loader in Aliens, true enough, it spent all of its time pretty much on the Sulaco's flight deck. But even that, it was beat up and dirty, so I'm assuming it's seen some planet-side missions. Maybe it went on one of the bug hunts. Alright, we're coming down to the end of Friday afternoon, and like I said, like I projected, I am not going to be finished with this anywhere near today. But I do have a flat coat on everything. Here's what I have left to do. I have left to do the silver highlighting on the power loader. I have yet to do any live rust on the power loader. That's just going to be a tiny bit. I have the most work to do left on Ripley. I have obviously her whole face, but I have all the flesh to paint on that, and I have yet to do any of the tubing on the power loader. So we're going to have enough to start on to next week, even if we don't finish it. So best to not rush it just to meet an artificial deadline. So that's where we're going to be. I think what I can do is I can go ahead and piece this stuff together, what I've got, and show you the final assembled power loader, if not having Ripley in it. And there you go. I've got everything put together except for Ripley, who is still she's not armless, but she can't go about defeating the Queen single-handedly without her hands. So that's the stuff that remains to be done, along with all of that. All of this hose has to go in yet. Plus these two wires for the welder have to go in yet. So some stuff to do, not quite done. And that's going to do it for this week. Not bad for 4 days. I would have had this done. I really think I would have had this done had I started on a Monday. But I didn't get the kit till Tuesday, so I lost a day. And I think that I've got maybe a day's worth of work in it. So we're going to finish this up early next week and start on to something else. And I've already got, you can probably hear it printing in the background, what may be coming up next. I enjoy the heck out of this kit. I'm really digging it. The fact that I could whip up a tiny little beacon for a little motor light, or a little bubblegum light for it out of a Evans Designs circuit that's off the shelf pretty much, to go in there, really adds that last bit of oomph to it. I'm enjoying the heck out of this, and weathering it and beating it up, doing all that kind of fun stuff. Now there was a larger kit like of this subject. It was a vinyl kit. It was either Horizon or Halcyon or one of those companies that I missed out on, and I always regretted that. This was a subject I thought would make a great model, and it does. It's a great model. It's just the right size for a shelf. A little bit pricey. I don't mind telling you, a little bit pricey, but you know what isn't these days. But you really can add your own oomph to it. And the thing about weathering, particularly with these types of washes and everything, you for sure will have your own kit. It won't look like anybody else's, even if everybody weathers it using the same materials. I guarantee you, they're all going to look different. And that's half the fun of a model, is making it your own. So we're going to finish this up next week. Like I said, I've got the Ripley figure to paint, and that's basically it. Plus all of this hosing to put in. So until then, y'all be good, be safe, be smart, be nice to each other, and we'll see you here next time.